Okay, this is a video on the Pittsburgh Radiator Pressure Test Kit. We'll do a quick unboxing. There we go. Alright. So, I have a Toyota Lexus, and the issue that I ran into with this is that this fitting and this fitting are supposed to be for Toyota. So let me show you what's going on with this. So, when I went to install this on the radiator cap, if you look at that ear, you see the one on the top, how it's really bent in. That was causing me not to be able to engage this into the radiator. And if you look at this one, let's take a look at it. See, that one's a little bit wonky too. So the ones with the tabs are those two. I don't know if any more here are going to have those locking tabs. Doesn't look like it. So just these two. What I had to do is I had to take the Dremel and cleave off a little bit of those tabs so it'll fit over the radiator inlet. So what you do is you take a micrometer and you measure your opening on your radiator fill, and then you match it, of course, to the opening here. You measure from the tab here, from there to there, and you take your Dremel, and if yours is going to give you the same problem that mine did, you're going to have to trim it down. Yeah, I could have returned it, but the problem with returning it is, even if it's defective, in my experience, Harbor Freight will charge you a restocking fee, which isn't right. In one of my previous videos, I had an air nailer, and I took it back because it wasn't functioning properly. Then they charged me a restocking fee, some other fee, and some other fee, and then I bought the replacement. By the time I got done paying for it all, I could have went out and bought a Boss stitch. And I looked at the manager and I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I could go buy a Boss stitch for what I'm paying for this air nailer walking out the door. So, lesson learned. And it was late. I didn't want to have to deal with it. I just wanted to get a pressure test done on my radiator to make sure I didn't have any leaks. So, another thing too that I was having an issue with, that the instructions are, non-existent. Really, come on. So you have this universal thing here, and for Toyota, what you would use if you're going to use the universal, which I didn't, is you would slide this plunger up into this assembly this way. Let me show you. So this will go from the bottom here, slide in, and it gets threaded. Okay. And then these little clamps here, if you look at them, they clamp onto the adapter. There's no instructions on this. Because if you try to clamp these clamps onto the radiator neck inlet, they won't hold. So what you have to do is you have to slide this on to the radiator neck to give these clamps something to hold on to. Okay, and I can't really do this with one hand. I'm trying, but let's see if I can get this to set in here right. So let's just do this. See, so that's going to slide under your neck, and then these will grab onto that adapter, right? This thing. Okay, so a lot of people probably unaware of that. I kind of figured that out looking at this setup, so hopefully that helps somebody out. Another pointer is that when you're pressurizing your radiator, what you want to do is you want to fill it up with fluid, because you don't want to be pressurizing air. And when you use this plunger assembly in your pressure gauge, you want to bring your pressure up to what your pressure rating is on your cap, okay, and you want it to hold. And you need a good seal, so you've got to clean that cap, or the inlet on the radiator and the adapter. You've got to clean the plunger, so you make sure your plunger's clean. and make sure your radiator inside the inlet of the radiator is clean or to leak. And pressurizing the system one time, you're not going to be able to do that. It will drop down a few pounds in my experience, and then you got to go in, pressurize it again, bring it back up. Like for my case, it was 13 pounds, and my radiator was full, and it took I would say about 3 times. So keep working at it. Don't go and pressurize it and then stop and figure you got a leak because your pressure dropped 2 pounds or what have you. Add some more pressure, bring it back up to whatever your pressure rating is for your system. Do that several times, and then let it sit for about 10 minutes and see what it does. Okay, if it keeps leaking down, and this is, I'm talking on a minuscule leak. If you have a minuscule leak, not a major leak, you'll know the major leaks right away. Put some dye in the radiator too, so you'll know, and you'll be able to see with the UV light the leak and where it's coming from. I'm talking if you have a pinhole leak, this is what you're going to want to do. I didn't, so I just had a little bit of air in the system, not much. So once you've pressurized everything several times, bring it back up, and it stays constant. What I would do is I would bring your pressure down from your operating pressure on your radiator, bring it down to about 5 pounds, and then go find your bleeder valve and bleed the air out of the system. What I did on mine is I used a vacuum pump, fluid withdrawal vacuum pump on the bleeder side to bleed the air out of my system, and I still had a little bit of air in there, which I got out using the process that I just described, right? So I left about 5 pounds in the system, let a little more of the air out, and good to go. So anyway, otherwise, other than the faulty manufacturing on this one fitting, this thing works okay for what it is. So hopefully this helps somebody out in utilizing this, and they got different fittings for different vehicles, obviously. Plunger assembly relief valve is right here, so this is going to be your plunger assembly to pressurize the system. Okay, it's a little bit temperamental. So when you're pumping this up, you don't always get a pressure, for some odd reason you don't always get a pressure stroke when you're pumping it. I don't know why. Something to do with the internals. I ain't taking it apart because I don't want to deal with it. So you'll see. If you got any questions on this thing, and there's a possibility that I can answer it, I will try my best. But there you go. Pittsburgh Radiator Pressure Test Kit. Over and out.